All right, so this is a tutorial on how to do the keyplate in Inventor. And you're gonna, if you are using Nutanix, then you'll use Autodesk Inventor Professional on on the desktop here. If you're using a regular computer, you'll just use the one that's on the desktop on the computer. So either one, it doesn't really matter which one that you're using, but that's what you'll be using. All right, so I'm gonna maximize this. All right, so when you first get into Inventor, there's about 3 or 4 different types of files. You have part, assembly, drawing, and presentation. And all these files are independent, but they're all kind of linked together. So everything that you pretty much do starts as a part and then ends up either as a drawing or as an assembly drawing or a presentation on a drawing. So, or vice versa. So the thing with Inventor is that you can actually do several different parts and then put them all together in an assembly, and then you can actually do it in a presentation mode, and then you have the drawing sheet where you actually lay the drawings out. So we're going to start out with a part for this one. So once you get into Inventor, you look across the top. Right now you have a 3D toolbar, which is your evolve, extrude, revolve, sweep, and emboss, and all the other nice little stuff right here that we use. Some of it we use and some of it we don't. And then once you click on Start 2D Sketch, the toolbar is going to change over. So I'm going to pick up Surface here. And then you'll see that the toolbar changes over from being a 3D toolbar to a 2D toolbar. So using AutoCAD, a lot of these symbols are the same. So they're line and circle, and there's 2 or 3 different types of circle, uh, three different arcs, and different types of rectangles, and so forth. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna actually gonna do a rectangle, and we're gonna do a center point rectangle. I think I froze. All right, so we're gonna do a center point rectangle here. And I'm gonna start this, and I'm gonna open it up. And the good thing about Inventor is that you don't have to be exactly on the number when you first make these. So I'm just going to kind of make a rectangle. And now I'm going to kind of come close to the numbers, but I don't have to be exactly on them. So I'm just going to do like that one. Then I'm going to use my dimension tool to actually shape it. So I'm going to make this one 7. Make this one 4.5. All right, so since I have a center point already, I'm going to just go ahead and utilize that. I'm going to do a circle from the center. And if I'm not mistaken, that circle, I think is maybe 3.5. I do believe. I'm going to make it 3.5. I think that's the number for it. Oh, never mind. I remember what the number is. It's 3. That's what it's 3. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. And what that's going to do is going to put me into an isometric view. All right, so normally in AutoCAD, I tell you not to mess with this little view cube over here. And in Inventor, it actually is one of the best tools in the program. So it allows you to navigate around in 3D. So now let's just say, for instance, you're navigating around in 3D and you actually get lost in space where things are. So I'm zooming like way out, can't see anything. You can double click on your wheel of your mouse, that'll bring it back into view. And then you can click on the little house button here, and it'll flip it back around into isometric. So if you notice up at the top, our toolbar has changed back over to the 3D toolbar. So we're going to use extrude, and we're going to pick this little section in here. All right, so on our extrusion toolbar, our extrusion palette here, we have, well, we can control it to go different directions. By default, it goes forward. It can go back. It can go from the middle. It can go from the middle up. I'm not sure what that one is. Oh, asymmetrical. So I'm just going to choose that one. And then I'm going to change the distance A to 0.125. It's going to be relatively a thin object. All right, so from here, I'm going to utilize my 3D tool for fillet. I could have did it as a 2D, but sometimes it's good to do it as a three-dimensional object also. All right, so if you notice, everything that I'm doing here now is being recorded. So as soon as I make that first extrusion, it recorded this initial sketch that I did. So let's just say, for instance, I want to go back. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? I'll go ahead and do the fillets on the corners. Before I do anything else, I could actually go ahead and change that, and it will automatically update the model. All right, so here you see fillet. Oh, I am looking way too hard here. So we'll move on. All right. All right, so I'm gonna use fillet in the 3D mode instead. And the zoom on this thing actually works opposite of what AutoCAD does. So that's the tricky part about it when you go between the two programs. All right, so with fillet, I'm going to set my radius. So I think the corner radiuses to these are 1. So I'm going to set that to 1. I'm going to move the box out the way. I'm going to select the edge. You just got to get used to the zoom on this, because like I said, it does go opposite of what AutoCAD does. And because we're working in 3D, I can navigate around. And I'm going to put this back in our home view. And I'm going to hit OK. So then it's going to give me my corners. All right, so from here, I'm going to add a new sketch to it. So I'm going to put the holes on the corners. So I'm just going to do a new sketch. So everything in Inventor starts out as a sketch. It's some form or fashion. All right, so I'm just going to choose this face as my sketch surface. And I'm going to do some circles. But I'm going to hover around my edge here. And when I hover around the edge, I'm going to get a little black dot. And I'm going to put in the size of these circles. So they're 0.75. I like to divide this into steps. So in case you make a mistake somewhere, it'll be easier to go back and change just that one thing than it is to try to change everything. So I got my 4 holes there. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that. Finish sketch. I'm going to extrude. And this time, when I extrude, I'm going to pick my 4 holes here, or my 4 circles. And I'm going to use a different part of the extrusion to cut the holes out. So I'm going to choose this second option here, which is cut. And it's going to reverse it. Now, if it doesn't go far enough through, sometimes you can just drag this, or grab the arrow and drag it. So I'm going to navigate around this side so I can grab it. So if it didn't go all the way through, I could always just kind of grab that and drag it, and then hit OK. And then that'll cut all the way through. All right, so not last, but I'm going to put another sketch. So so far we have two extrusions. So we have the base, then we have the holes on the corners. So in underneath each one of them is the sketch that I started with. All right, so I'm gonna do another sketch here, and this time I'll do the two that are here. So I'm gonna use circle. I'm gonna align with this one, and I'm gonna get that little dotted line, and then I'm gonna align with my center point here. And when I line those two up, it's gonna give me a little cross point. And I'm gonna put in the 0.75. Now, if that doesn't work, it should, but sometimes it doesn't. There's another way of doing it. You can take a line and go from one to the other, from center to center. And then do a circle from the midpoint of that line. And then do 0.75. And it knows where the midpoint is. You delete that. And while I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and make my rectangle. But this time I'm not gonna use a center point one. I'm going to use a regular 2-point rectangle. And I'm going to go from the bottom to the top over here. And it pretty much just locks into place by itself. So it almost kind of helps you out with how it's going to do it. All right. Then I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to extrude the rectangle and the two circles. And I'm going to extrude them to cut. So that's just going to reverse that. I'm going to hit OK. Then that's going to cut that out. All right, so our final one is to get to do the little key. So I'm gonna do another 2D sketch. I'm gonna pick that same face, and this time I think I am gonna use the center point rectangle. If I can get it to act right. Let me put this in ISO. You may be doing something different. Oh, wrong one. There we go. All right. So now here's how I can show you a little function that is very unique. All right. So we know that this rectangle is 0.75 wide. So we can change that first. It's going to adjust it inward. Now the one that it's a tricky one is this one. All right, so we know that from the center to the top of in the or the bottom is 1.88. So we actually can put the equation in this in order to do to automatically make it the correct number, which is 3.75. So that's a really good tool to use, and it kind of let the math work itself for you. All right, and we're going to extrude, and we're going to cut that one as well. I'm going to hit OK. All right, so that is the complete Keyplate. So what we're going to do is make sure we save it. And we're going to put it in Documents, Frame User. I like using all capital letters because when you start the next phase of this, Not active project. Do you want to continue? Save? Yes. All right. So the next phase of this, we're going to actually start a new drawing, which is how we're going to put the key plate on the sheet. So we're going to do new. And I could have chosen drawing right there, but I want you to come back out and see it here also. So I'm going to choose that. That's the drawing. And sometimes these are in tabs. Oh, there they are. So the actual key plate you did first is there. And then the drawing that you're going to put it on is here. So in order to get it onto the sheet, you're going to click on base. And since the key plate is already open, it's going to choose it. So we're going to put it here. I'll tell you what, let's put it right here in the middle. All right, and our scale is 1:1. And it's going to stay on hidden line view. So we're not going to have anything fancy about it. And we're going to leave it right there. So then we're going to put the one in the corner to represent it. We're going to do a projected. Click on it. We're going to drag it up at an angle. And you click once, then right mouse click, and then click on create. All right, so after you create that one, if you want to add some color to it, you can. You can double click on it here, and then come back into this dialog, and then choose one of these two. Sometimes I choose both of them because I like to see the hidden lines on it. All right, so now we got our drawing, and our sheet is actually too big. So we need to change this sheet here. So we're going to go to sheet, right mouse click, edit sheet. And it's a D size, and we're going to change it down to a C because it's huge. That's why the drawing looks so small on this sheet. I'm going to just move this here to the center. I'm going to move this over. All right, so now we're going to go to our annotate. All right, so it's 17 minutes. All right, so we're going to go to annotate, and we're going to put our center lines in. So we're going to use this little plus right here. And we're going to click on each one of them. And it'll give us our, so we're just going to stretch this one here in the middle, because it only gave us 3 legs of the other one. And we're going to stretch this out. So another 2 should be fine. All right, so still under the annotate, we're going to add our dimensions. Now, the one thing about Inventor is that there's only one dimension tool that does all of them. So there's no hitting the drop down and choosing linear or radius or diameter. If I click on a circle, it knows it's a diameter dimension. If I click on a curve, it knows it's a radius. So that's the plus to this particular one. Okay, so now we're going to do our dimensions. And again, I don't have a sheet next to me. So I have to kind of do it the way that I know how to do it. So I'm going to choose those 2 first. And as you see, when you're dragging your mouse out, you see you hit these little points where it starts to break into little dotted lines. Those are your marker points for you to place a dimension. I typically go to the second one because the first one is a little bit too close. The second one is perfect in most cases. Sometimes it's not, and then you have to go a little bit further. And then in order to align those 2, I'm just going to touch that one and then bring my mouse down. All right, and then finally, I think we got overall from top to bottom. We'll place that one right there. And of course, the pan works the same way it does in AutoCAD. You hold down the wheel on the mouse. And I'm just going to finish up with a few more dimensions here. And now if that box annoys you, popping up every time, you can close it or tell it not to pop up anymore. Simply by taking that check mark out. But some of these you'll need to add some notation to them, such as that one would be like 4 places. That'll be 4 holes. So I'm going to drag this one out. About right there. All right, so I'm not going to redo the one between here and here because it's already over here. So that's kind of like no point of doing that. But we do need the overall length of the object. So let me pause this for a second and grab one of the sheets. All right. Okay, so I did have one here that went from the top to the middle, but I think we're going to do the overall right here instead. But what I'm going to do is actually take it and move it out a little bit. So I'm going to move it out a level. And the other one in between. So I'm going to do that one along with the other one. All right, so normally, so when you have a radius on the curve on the corners, you don't necessarily have to do an overall dimension. But in this case, I'm actually going to do one because of the size of the plate. So I'm just going to bring this 7 down and put it right there. But on the other sheets, you don't have one. And for the width of our key, we're going to do that. Okay, so that's all the dimensions. We got our 3D representation. So the last thing we're going to do over here is change. One is our name. So we're going to go to File, Our Properties, to the Summary tab. And we're going to change either your student ID number, login, or where it says frame user. And we're going to change that to your name. That's going to be the only thing that we changed on that part. All right, so next we're going to use our text tool. And we're going to make a box from top left to bottom right. And then we're going to choose the 2nd and the 5th button here. And that's where I'm going to put the school name. Go to drafting and design. And then we're going to do the same thing here. And 2nd and the 5th button again. And this time we're going to click Keyplate. And I'm going to make that text a little bit larger, so I'm going to change the height. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to underline it, and I'm going to make it 0.24. And all right, so them the only two things you really got to change because everything else is there. The scale is still 1:1, and it's sheet 1:1, so that you don't have to worry about any of that. And the date is automatically there. All right, so from here, you just simply going to export it as a PDF, and that's what you'll be turning in. So you just go to File, Export, PDF, and you'll make sure it goes to the right place that you can find it. In my case, Frame User and Documents if you're using Nutanix, and Keyplate, PDF, Save. Now, if you are inside of Nutanix and you are not haven't logged into your Google account, you'll have to download this file. So you have to go here and go to the document, click on it, or go inside of Documents here, and then click Find It, and then click on it. Let's see if we can find it. There we go. Right mouse click, download with Frame, and it'll download it to the computer. So once it downloads it to the computer that you're actually working on, then you can actually go ahead and upload it onto Google Classroom. So I'm going to separate those two assignments. One's going to be for AutoCAD and one's going to be for Inventor. So that'll be able to keep you up on top of everything. But that's pretty much it for this particular one.